What up, Soul Tribe family? Welcome back to another episode of Soul Seek Conversations, our mental health podcast. Today is episode 34, and I'm so excited to have our guest Devyn here with us. She's going to be joining us in a few minutes. Y'all know who I am if you're not new here. My name is Soliel Lindsey. I am the owner of Soul Rise Essentials, where we are shining a bright light, a global light on mental health. One way that we do that is through this podcast. This podcast exists to shed light. Hold up. Let me get my... Y'all should think y'all would think I would have this together by now. But Soul Seek Conversations is a mental health podcast for humans on the grow. We exist to share stories of resilience, build global community, and for you to discover new ways to thrive via the brave voices of others. So that's exactly what we're doing here today. We're going to be sharing a story from Devyn, just her personal journey with her mental health and some other things that kind of play into that as well. So you'll hear from her own words today as well. And so if you already know about Soul Rise Essentials, then cool, you already know what I'm about to say. But for the people that are new here that are watching the replay on YouTube or listening somewhere else, Soul Rise Essentials is we have products, mental health products for the entire family. They are bright, as you can see behind me. They are colorful, and we do that with real intention. We know the power of color. We know the power of color therapy, and that it can lift your spirits up. We exist for resilient humans that have gone through some things, some trauma, adverse life experiences, and those things really do change you. So the community in the Soul Tribe family that we are creating helps to kind of keep your spirits high, you know? So that's what we're helping you to do. Help your soul rise again, your personal sunlight in your life rise again. That's exactly why we exist and why you are part of the Soul Tribe family. If you are watching the replay, I want you to put some sunshine emojis down in the comments. And just let the people know, like, share our live, share this podcast with somebody who it may touch and inspire. We do have a trigger warning here because we do discuss some things that can be a little tough. And so we're going to laugh. Somebody might cry. I'm not sure. But these are very serious topics. And so I just want to put out there that if something is said that is kind of touching you in a different way, feel free to pause it. You can always just come back. Feel free to just exit out of it. But we definitely want people to know that we discuss some real topics here, and that you choose if you want to listen and engage or not. And so I always like to put that out there. We are simply humans discussing our lived experiences. And so this is not to treat, to diagnose. We are simply here to encourage you, to inspire you, to educate you, and to help you thrive. That's it. You can find out how myself and Devyn are thriving through situations that come to kind of, teach us some things. They may be a little bit tough, but with community, you can get through a lot of things. Okay. So definitely want to put that out there as well. You can find all of our episodes on YouTube. Go follow us on YouTube, type in Soul Rise Essentials, the business name, or you can type in Soul Seek Conversations, the podcast name, and you can follow us there. We try to get our followers up. Help us get to 100, y'all. So follow us over there to watch this episode and more, any future episodes as well. If you have a personal story that you want to share as it pertains to mental health, feel free to shoot us an email so we can set up a quick call, make sure it's a good fit for the podcast. You can email us at mystory@soulriseessentials.com. That's SOLRISE essentials.com. Also, y'all, do you know what this month is? It is July of 2024, which means our 3-year anniversary is on the way. It's actually this coming Sunday, July 21st. So Soul Rise Essentials has existed for 3 years, and I'm really excited to say that because a lot of businesses don't make it to year 3. And so that's a huge feat for us. Yes, we are still growing. Yes, we are still hopping over some hurdles and figuring this thing out, but it has been an amazing journey. And I want y'all to share our business with somebody who doesn't know about it. Again, we're on a global mission to shine a light on mental health, to open up the dialogue, to destigmatize the dialogue about what you're going through. We've had people that have had bipolar 1 and 2 disorder, schizophrenia, all kind of things. They've overcome different types of abuse and overcome living with different mental health challenges and gone through some really life-changing things that have changed them mentally. And so we doing the thing. Like, we're putting faces to diagnoses and stories to diagnoses, so you can humanize people and understand that the person that you walking next to on the sidewalk or working with every day, they could be dealing with some things that you have no idea about, yet they show up every single day. And so we're just trying to humanize people and different illnesses and just different challenges that people are experiencing, so that just because you may not be going through it, someone else could be going through it, and you just want to have some empathy and some knowledge and language about what they may be going through. And honestly, just tap them on their shoulder and be like, are you having a good day? Are things okay? Do you want to talk? And genuinely mean that. So it's not been an easy thing, but I'm just so excited. If you follow me on LinkedIn, then you know about all the exciting things and speaking engagements and things that I have coming up, and just how I've been able to grow this business. It's been awesome. So I just want to say thank you for being part of the Soul Tribe family. Thank y'all for showing up every single month when we do this podcast to listen to these stories from thrivers from all over. And I'm manifesting that it's going to be from all over the world at some point, because I do have plans and visions and visions for this to be a global thing. So thank you for being part of the Soul Tribe family. And very soon I will be announcing a giveaway. So you want to stay tuned for that. Get on our email list. If you sign up on our email list, you can get 15% off your order. So email or text will allow that to happen. So hop on it, y'all. Get on the email list and celebrate with us. I have some really exciting news for people who live in Richmond or can get to Richmond. So stay tuned on our email and text list for that as well. If you're watching on YouTube, look in the description box at the timestamp. It'll tell you where you can scroll to, because I do a lot of announcements. And so if you like, girl, you talking too much, get to the point, then you can scroll to the timestamp where our interview actually starts. But I think those are all of my announcements. Devyn, I hope you are ready, girl. I'm actually about to send this live to a couple people before we get started as well. And feel free to do the same, so we can garner some live support in here as well. So if you're online, I'm clicking on your name, baby. I am clicking on your name so we can invite you in the room live. Boom, boom, boom. We're going to send it to you and you and you and you. Okay. All right. I sent it to quite a few people. All right, Devyn boo. I hope you're ready. I'm coming to you now. What up, Kerwin? I don't know if you're still in here, but hi. Hello, gorgeous. Uh-oh, can you hear me? Hold on.
Yeah, I can't see you though.
You can't see me?
Oh,
That happened to another girl. Could you see me before you came on?
yeah, I could.
Okay, you want to go out, close the app, and then come right back? Okay.
Exactly.
So, y'all, I have plans to actually switch the podcast over. I don't know how y'all feel about this, but it is a video podcast right now. How would you feel if this was an audio podcast? Because this is cool. I call it a podcast, but really it's like a talk show, because it's a video experience. But you know, Instagram be having its little glitches, and when these types of things happen, it really reminds me of how I need to prioritize getting us on an actual platform site. So y'all let me know what your thoughts, feelings, and opinions are about that, because I definitely want to consider y'all, because I know some of y'all probably really enjoy the video experience, but it comes with its challenges on Instagram. Devyn, can you see me?
I absolutely cannot.
That is crazy work. I don't understand that. I'm not sure what else to do. It did happen to another guest on our podcast. I'm not sure what that's about. How are you today?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm really good. Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining me. I'm going to let you introduce yourself formally to everybody, but I do just want to share like how we met. I love like kind of just doing a quick little spiel how we met. So I met you actually last year around this same time, because it was actually during Legacy Week, and it was at I think it was a Wellness Wednesday event, but I know it was one of their wellness events.
Yep.
And yeah, I was like, who is this girl? And you were talking to me, I'm talking to you, and so we connected, and you shared a little bit about what you're experiencing with me. And I'm like, would you be interested in coming on my podcast? So thank you for saying yes, number one, but please introduce yourself and let the folks know who you are, what you do.
Thank you for having me first. Thank you for really just even having this platform. We all need to be talking about this more, especially with the state of the world right now. We need to understand that like the complexities of mental health is something we all navigate.
Yes.
Destigmatize that. So thank you for this work.
Yes, thank you.
You said I'm Devyn. I'm a lover, an artist, a teacher, um, a dancer, a integrative embodiment practitioner, like a body-based therapist.
Yes.
I'm a collective imagination practitioner, but like the easy way to say all of these things is I'm a liberation guide. I help
Yes.
people rehumanize from this dehumanizing world. And I
I,
also,
yeah. All right.
I'm also a chronically healing person, which makes all of the things much more complicated existing in this body, in this world, in this moment. And so I'm really excited to talk about that and what the impact of that has had on
Yeah.
my life.
Yeah, and exactly what all that means too, because like you said, it embodies so many different things. I know we had talked about one title for you, and then things change. You know, it was one thing, and now it's another thing, and I'm all for it. I'm all for the evolution because things are not always black and white and simple, right? And so, like you said, we get to define who we are and put language to that and express that so people know who you are. You get to define that. So, yeah, again, thank you for being here. If you just want to, well, first of all, you surprised me because I didn't know that you were a dancer as well. Of course, because I don't know you very well, but I'm like, she does all the things. So, what type of dance are you into?
I mean everything. I was trained. I convinced my mother when I was very young to put me into ballet classes,
Okay.
um, which I didn't last for very long, but that was like kind of where I started, right?
Yeah.
So ballet exists in everything I do. And then kind of, I would say if I like looked at the whole amalgamation of everything I do, it kind of is like a modern dancer.
Okay.
Um, and I don't necessarily dance to like dance a specific style. Dance for me is how I be. It's how I breathe. It's how I move. It's how I connect. Um, I literally last night was like, oh, I can't sleep. Let me dance about it for like an
Mm.
hour and just like let my body talk and do what it needed to do so that my system would settle down enough to go to sleep. So I really dance to function. I dance to move through my emotions. I dance to dance with my ancestors, all the things.
I love that. And you know what's so funny that you say that because that happened to me in the shower the other day. I just
Mm.
started moving, I felt stiff, and I'm not a dancer like by any means. But when I go out with my girlfriends and stuff, my sister, I like to dance, right? But like I'm rethinking that. Like you just said, it's really about moving that stagnant energy in your body, which could be very helpful to your mental health and just your physical health as well. And I was like, girl, and I was literally just moving around in the shower. So I love how you put that. You know, you said earlier that you're a chronically healing person, right? And so for you, I'm sure, and we're going to talk about this as well, the different modalities that you're into, but I'm sure that that's one of them because movement is life. I hear from so many elders and older people. I'm like, what's the key? What you doing? They like, don't stop moving. I hear that so much. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, dance was, I would say, the first like modality that I came in contact with that really helped me come back to my body. I was, deep in my own trauma healing, like trying to figure out what this meant. What does healing look like? What are these practices everyone keeps talking about? What is meditation? And someone invited me to this thing called ecstatic dance, which is just a 2 or 3 hour dance experience where you're not allowed to talk at all. It's
Mm.
completely nonverbal, no shoes, no phones or recording or anything. It's just like you, a dance floor, and the music. And
Wow.
normally they go along like a specific rhythm. They call it the 5 rhythms. So it starts kind of with like a slower beginning and then it builds to this like staccato release lyrical thing and then it comes back down and literally it mirrors the 5 rhythms of the earth and the
Mm.
5 rhythms of the body.
Mm.
So it's intentionally bringing your body up through the peak and then back down and just kind of reminding your body that we can, because we often get stuck at the peak, we get stuck
Yep.
at like this top of the stress
Yep.
space. So it reminds our body that we can go back down. But that space was how I learned to listen to what my body wanted. what it needed, how it wanted to move. I would go in there and like go into a corner of the room and just dance out my week until I finally was like, okay, cool, now we're moving now. And then I would like go into the middle of the room and dance and celebrate with everyone in the space.
I love that.
And come back down. It was just a really beautiful release.
I love that. And it's reminiscent of what I was just saying about being in the shower. Like initially I need to stretch my body. But then it just turned into movement. And I've started to rethink how I talk about myself in terms of being a dancer, because I'm like, oh, I'm not a dancer. I'm not a good dancer. But who gets to determine that? You know what I'm saying? Like dance is just movement, and it does so much for your body physically and mentally. So I'm glad that we touched on that, because I think that's something that is often overlooked. The importance of movement. You know, people look at it like, oh, I get up and I walk every day. But if you're working from home like me, you putting on some extra pounds,
Mm-hmm.
and just that energy, that stagnant energy in your body, it has nowhere to go. And so that's when a lot of illnesses can set in, whether it be in your body and your mind, both. And I don't think people talk about that enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I also want to just say something to you because someone said it to me the other day. I was like, oh, good point.
Yeah.
I was singing the other day and I was about to sing and told someone like, I'm sorry, I'm not a very good singer. And they looked at me and were like, oh, do birds say that every time they sing? I'm sorry, world, I'm not a very good singer.
Right.
It's like, no, you just, they like, it's a natural part of our existence is movement, right?
Yeah.
And like, we think there's a specific way we're supposed to be moving and dancing, right?
Right.
But like any dance is a natural and beautiful thing, no matter how it comes out and what
That's
other
good.
people think of it.
That's good. It doesn't matter what other people think. So that is so good. Can you explain what well, we'll probably get into this more as well, but when someone hears you say a liberation guide, what does that mean exactly?
We've forgotten ourselves. We have forgotten what it is to be human because we live in capitalism, right? Like in capitalism, in this system that we exist in, the only thing that we are good for is production. And if we can't produce, then we are useless. We are disposable, right? And so, if you look back, I mean, not a lot of us really can fully look back, especially Black folks, right? But if you look back at a lot of our ancestors before we came to this country, it wasn't about production. It was about community. It was about the earth. It was about moving in the natural ways of things. And so doing liberation work is about remembering.
Yeah.
So remembering the natural instincts, the natural patterns of our own bodies.
Yes.
Remembering how our body actually wants to be engaging with the world. Remembering that our body is actually here to support us. And that the ways that we are constantly telling it it's not good enough, it's not smart enough, it's not doing this thing right, we're shaming it for like having natural body processes and all of the things, that isn't us. That is our oppressors working through us to oppress us. And so as a liberation guide, I just help people remember who we actually are. And it's different for everyone. There are billions of humans on this earth.
Yeah.
The way I human is not the way anyone else humans. But there is one very basic way to rehumanize, and that is to return to the human body, the thing that makes us human, right?
And it's sad that the state that we're in right now calls for that. But I'm glad that you're showing up in that space and in that way. So what types of people come to you like that you're working with?
All kinds of people. Turns out we're all desperate. And like okay, sorry, I have my timer on that tells me I have to be off of Instagram every 15 minutes. Like,
and that is needed. Take a break, yes.
Of a whole wider range, because really all of us, even the people at the very top of this like capitalist machine that are supposed to be like winning the capitalism game, are, I would say, even more disconnected from their bodies and their needs than the rest of us, right? So like my last client is a very old rich white man, which I was like, I don't even know how you found me. Like, okay, this is very, like, it was very random, but like most of my clients are young, are like, 20s, early 30s, like really, really dedicated to this work, dedicated to like finding a new way of being in their bodies that isn't harming them. But also isn't inviting like shame. I'm very much a like celebrate exactly how you are right now. every single moment celebrate how you are right now, because you are.
Yes.
And that's a beautiful and sacred thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I read an affirmation this morning. It's on my mirror, and it says, "I am not perfect, and that is okay," or something like that. No, it said, "I'm not perfect, and that's a beautiful thing."
so I have a weird way of thinking of perfection, and I think it's because I mean, we grew up in white worlds as Black bodies. It's like we have to be perfect, the Black excellence thing. But also, I'm a Virgo, and
Okay.
perfection is something that is very.
Whoosh. Yeah, and yes, okay.
But one of the things that I realized recently was that um, part of the human condition is growth. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we are born pooping all over ourselves and spitting up all over ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And part of our growth is learning to control our bowels. Part of our growth is learning to take step after step after step. Part of our growth is like breaking a bone and our bones regrowing
Yeah.
together, right? Like, part of the human experience is being messy and incapable and growing and learning and building
I
skills,
love that.
right?
Yeah.
So by that principle, us making mistakes, us being messy, us puking all over ourselves, whatever the thing is actually perfect.
Yes.
So we are innately perfect, even in our worst, most terrifying, most embarrassing, most shameful moments, whatever our thing is, right?
Yeah.
That's actually perfectly human.
Right.
The
And
most
we've given that perfection a different definition, and we're trying to live up to that.
exactly,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
good. Yes, that's good. And in the comments says, "Yes, we are." She's agreeing with you. That's a powerful statement. I um I want to also ask you about the other title that we have for you is embodiment practitioner. After you talk about that, I want to pause and incorporate a segment where we do box breathing. Because before we get
Mm,
into your story, I just like to recenter myself because I be having a million one things going on in my personal life before I sit down to do this podcast.
yep.
And I had said earlier before, we always issue like a trigger warning. If you hear something that's triggering to you, pause, cut it off, come back, or not, right? And so I'm very intentional about how we do this podcast because of the things that we do talk about. So definitely tell me what your integrative embodiment practitioner title consists of. And I want to read a quick comment from Anne. She says, "Perfection is what we are, what we do can be something else." That's good. Y'all talking today, baby.
Mm.
Mm,
It's really
okay.
good to see you too. Integrative embodiment practitioner. So, when I was like, okay, I need to heal what's happening here, because I kept running at the Western medical system thinking that they were going to help me, and they kept harming me. And so I tried to find other ways of healing, and I happened to be really blessed to be in a city with a lot of different modalities. So I dove into every alternative modality I could find.
Mm-hmm.
And something that I realized, partly actually through dance, is that the body is meeting trauma, meeting pain, meeting any of our emotional experiences through the body is one of the most efficient ways to integrate and meet the world and meet the moments that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and found all of the alternative modalities that were efficient, efficient and easy and gentle,
Mm-hmm.
because I realized that this world is not gentle or kind to us. And
Mm-hmm.
so one of the most radical things we can do is to offer ourselves kindness and sweetness and gentleness in our healing
Yes.
process. Um, and so, as an integrative embodiment practitioner, I use all of these different modalities that I've found and come across and blend them together to help us remember ourselves, to
Mm-hmm.
help us meet the chaos of every given moment and build skills. It's a lot of emotional intelligence skills, but also some journey work into our trauma, like going back and giving those younger selves the things that they needed that no one ever gave us,
Yes.
going and looking at our limiting beliefs and saying, where did
Yes.
I learn that? Do I still want it? And like, can I forgive my younger self for picking that up, because that was all we had at the time,
That's it.
right? And kind of working through all of those processes to kind of restore our energy, because a lot of our energy gets locked up in these old narratives. We're still, ooh, whoopsies. We're still thinking about things years and years
Yeah.
later. Like, oh, that one time that someone did this thing to me when I was 6, and you're like 52 still thinking about that time when you were 6. It's like, that's so much of your energy for your whole
Come
life
on.
that has been going to that
Come on.
moment. And like, how do we reclaim that? By just giving that 6-year-old what they needed, by showing up in the ways that no one else showed up for us.
Girl, I love everything you said. So it sounds like somebody like me could benefit from you. That's why I love like hearing there's so many different ways we can call things that we do. Like I'm a confidence coach now. I'm sure there's some other fancy terms I can put in there, right? But I wanted you to explain that so people know exactly what you do, what that looks like, even though it sounds like based on what client is in front of you, you're tapping into different things, which explains why you're saying it's integrative. You're integrating different things, different modalities based on who's in front of you. So I love that. And I definitely wanted to put that out there for anybody that may be interested, because something that you said just now is, well, multiple things you said is exactly where I am on my journey right now, just really peeling back those layers, because it's like you say you want to be, you know, in one position in life, but and you see it, you see yourself being that person, being that thing, but there's something holding you back. You can't quite put your finger on it, and it's really internal. When you really think about the way you think, the way you view the world. I'm reading a book right now that really digs into like our paradigms and where they come from and who we pick them up from. And it's really just saying, yeah, that may be your paradigm today, but it can change, you know. And it sounds like working with an integrative embodiment practitioner could be an answer to you trying to get out of that stuck place. It could be one thing you could do, because there's so many different things, right? But I love that you are showing up in that way, in that space, helping people migrate through, like you said, those limiting beliefs, that stagnant energy, all of those different things. So that's exactly where I'm at in my life right now. Like, why do I think this? And it's not even a conscious thought. It's like real subtle, but it's really ruling your whole damn life and every decision that you make, you know? So I love that. Thank you for sharing that and being that person.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
such a it's such a gift, honestly, to be
Yeah.
able to be like, oh, no, 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 you have so much more power than you realize. Let's help you
Yeah.
access it. Let's help you see
Yes, let's
it
help
and
you
feel it.
tap into that power and use that power. Not just know that you have it, but act like you got it, you
Yes.
know? So
Yes.
Anne also says, and also those limiting beliefs protected us, children. I think. Let me make sure I'm reading right. Us children against the pain of where our parents were not meeting our emotional needs. So important to see them for what they were there for. I agree. Yes, and sometimes you know our truths are going to make other people uncomfortable. That doesn't mean that you stop unveiling them, though, because I look at parenthood for those of us who have children as passing a baton. I'm trying to do the work that I know I'm here to do. And if I didn't dig as deep as I wouldn't even realize that. So I don't want my child and anybody else who may come from me to not be aware. So that's why I love having these conversations. I'm going to share my stories with him, age appropriate, of course, right? But so he knows what mom had to deal with, so he can just be conscious. If there are things popping up in his life that are from me, actually, right? And not, he can be aware, so he knows what work he needs to do, and he could pass it on to his kids and thereafter, you know. So yeah, don't be afraid of those truths. It may piss other people off, but hey, some people need to be pissed off sometimes, and it's okay.
I just want to say real quick, thank you for the level of vulnerability and integrity it takes to do that with kids, because we were not taught that. We were not taught that at all.
Yeah.
And to show up differently like that is a really beautiful
Thank
thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Anne says, so excited about your conversation. Hey, thank you for being here, Anne, and supporting Devyn and being part of the Soul Tribe and talking back to us. We love that.
Yeah.
So, Devyn, I jumped the gun a little bit. So, we're going to go back and do some box breathing. I'm not sure if you've watched any other episodes, but I do a very simple, accessible. I mean, breath work is accessible to anybody if you're breathing, right? That's why I love it so much. But I know you're really into you know, emotional regulation. And one way, as an adult, as a big ass human trying to learn to regulate my emotions, I have really been into box breathing. And it's simple. I am on the go a lot. You know, I'm triggered a lot, to be quite honest with you. And so one way that I have learned to regulate my emotions is through box breathing. So I just do 4 counts. You know, I breathe in for 4, I hold for 4, and then I blow out for 4. I actually just realized last week that 6 counts does better for me because I can really get that full breath into my lungs. But for the sake of the podcast, we're gonna keep on with that 4. So are you ready to do that? Do that with me?
Can I add something to it?
Absolutely. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you can't completely see because I'm wearing a dark shirt, but you go to the base of your sternum.
Okay. Sternum. Where's that
You'll feel
exactly?
like
For the people
right
listening back
between
in?
where your ribs meet at the bottom, right at the bottom where the ribs meet. And you want to go 4 fingers above that. And of course, I'm wearing a bra that's in the way right now. And you'll feel a point.
Yeah.
For some people, for some people, it might be sensitive. You might actually feel a bump there. If you're
Mm-hmm.
energetically sensitive, you'll feel it as well. This is the sea of tranquility.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a simple point on the body.
So you want me to kind of push in there
Yeah.
while I'm doing the box breathing?
While we do
Okay.
the body breathing, so just hold
Okay.
this.
You want to count us all so we can start?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's start just by exhaling this breath that you have all the way to the end, and then slowly breathing in through the nose for 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold for 4, 3, 2, 1, and release for 4, 3, 2, 1, and then hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. And again, in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. And release for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll do one more. In for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. And release for 4, 3, 2, 1. And hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. And continue just breathing at your own pace.
That was great. So, can you explain to me that point one more time, just so I can make sure I'm doing it right? Because I want to incorporate that. I feel really good right now.
Yeah, at this point, this is my favorite point. I use this all the time. Mostly, I have a lot of what I call body hacks, just easy ways to tap into the body's natural regulation sense
Yeah.
system and help our bodies. And this is my favorite one. I
Yeah.
use it mostly because it's really discreet. You
Yeah.
don't need to pay attention super long, or you don't need to like do any like big tapping or anything.
Right.
You want to go to right where
Can
your ribs.
you stand up real quick? Are you able to stand up?
I can just go this way. So right where your ribs come together,
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
at the base of that, is your base, that bone in the middle of your sternum. And so you want to start at the base of that at your pinky and go 4 fingers up.
Mm.
And right in the center, oh, mine is super sensitive today. Right in that center point, it's called the Sea of Tranquility. It's a Chinese medicine point.
Hmm.
And I really like this point because it feels like it centers me and it slows me down. It like
Mm.
one, it forces you to like while you're holding it, you can feel like you're more tuned into your breath because you can feel your ribs as they expand and contract.
Mm-hmm.
You're touching yourself. I find that when you put hands
Yeah.
on your own body,
Yeah.
it settles your system. It like brings a different kind of awareness, and
Yeah.
just awareness of your body can help regulate your body.
Yeah.
Um,
That's so
but this,
good.
yeah, it also like helps you stay grounded and centered. So I use this like when I'm in hard conversations. I use this when someone like cuts me off in traffic, and I'm just like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if it's for some people, it might be really, really sensitive. Um, and if it is really sensitive or if it hurts, you're not trying to press into it hard. You can really just like hold pressure there.
Okay.
And the longer you do it, like I've worked with this point for years, and so it shifts pretty quickly. You can actually
Mm-hmm.
start feeling it shift right now.
You'll yawn.
Not everyone yawns. I'm a that's like we call it off gassing, the way that your body releases stored trapped energy.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a yawner. I tend to yawn or burp. Some people sweat, some people cough, some people cry. It's different, and sometimes it's different for different situations. But one of the ways that you'll know that this point on your chest, the Sea of Tranquility, is cleared, is you'll start feeling a pulse between in that space.
Hmm.
So like you'll start feeling like the boom, 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 and that's when you know it's cleared. So you either like you'll have the breath shift, and so normally if my breath shifts, if I start yawning, or if I just like have a bigger breath, I'll wait 2 or 3 breaths after that to let it settle completely in my system, and then I'll let go.
Wow. That's good. Thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely.
Barrington, he's one of my friends that I met on social media who supports my brand all the time. He's here. Thank you for being here. He did the breathing exercise with us. He's talking about somebody to work out. I can't hold for that long. Yes, we're gonna have to keep practicing, Barrington. I love that. And he says she's yes, at your own pace. She's going to work. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and practices. Thank you for joining us, Anne. So now that we've done that, I want to ask you a question. Thank you for that, by the way. That was very informative. How is your mental health today on a scale from 1 to 5? This is a mental health podcast. I told y'all we're going to ask the deep questions, child, in this
Love that.
moment.
Honestly, in this moment, I'm a 5. Things have been. I was actually just talking to a friend right before this. I feel like these last, like I've done some like very, very deep trauma and healing work in the last like 7, 8 years, and I've been really, really deeply dedicated to it. And it feels like someone pointed out to me the other day. I was trying to figure something out, and I was just like, oh, like I feel like this is the move. And I was like, I don't know why things just keep working. They're like, oh, that's because you've honed your intuition and now you're
Yes,
listening to it. Like I
yes,
like built so many of these practices, like my meditations practice, all of these things. Like it's really easy for me to ground now.
yes.
It's really easy for like if it's like a super intense emotional dysregulation, it can take some time.
Sure.
Like
Right,
generally, like just a general dysregulation that happens because someone does something or because I make a mistake or whatever, like I can bring myself back pretty quickly now.
right.
Because I've really worked those muscles and I've taught my neural pathways a different way. Like I've taught my body that
Yes,
we don't have to go into that like deep well of depression or sadness or
yes,
fear. It's like I've also dug a well that is just as deep for joy and
yes.
play and comfort and safety.
I absolutely love that for you. That is the journey I'm on. I want to say I started like my healing and wellness, like natural, holistic journey when I was about 19. But I've gone through cycles, right? And now I feel like the cycle that I'm in right now and the season that I'm in is like you said, peeling back those layers, and I'm noticing the patterns. When something big happens, depending on who it is, child, I can go there. And so I would say about 2 years ago, it was an incident that happened that really showed me the pattern. And I'm like, hold on, I'm too old for this shit. And I have a child
Mm.
and I have things to lose. I'm starting a business. We talking about mental health. Like I cannot be in the gotcha paper because I didn't hauled off on somebody for something that I really should have controlled my emotions about. Granted, you can be upset, but like you said, doing that personal work really slows you down. And so I'm again that book I was talking about earlier. It's a book everybody's heard of, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh yeah,
Bless you. Did you sneeze?
yeah.
Oh, bless you. It's really like showing me like, girl, you can be the problem and it's okay. You can also be the solution. And so I love that you've done the work and are still doing the work to slow yourself down. And I also love that you admitted to like, yeah, I can regulate myself in a few minutes if something minor happens, but if it's something big, I might, that's human. And I love that you said that and that you expressed that it's not a destination. Healing is not a destination. Now, when we're talking about physical things, which we're going to get into as well, that's a different story. But it's work that has to be done on a continuum.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every single day. And also there are days like I definitely fell into some old coping mechanisms recently. It was like, oh, hey y'all, you're
Right.
so comfortable. I know you well, and like I've got other ways to do this. So let's.
Yes.
And it did take me a few days to catch myself. I was like, oh, look at you, look at you.
Yep.
This is the third cigarette we've
Yep.
had in a few days.
Yep.
It's interesting.
Right. And I love that, and not shaming yourself. I love how you put it. Hey y'all, I remember y'all.
Uh-huh. Old
Oh, I
friend.
love that. Absolutely love that. I want to share how I'm feeling on a scale from 1 to 5 today. In this moment, because of this conversation, I feel very grounded. I'm learning some things. I love this podcast because I love hearing people's perspectives, and definitely learned a few things already in this conversation. So I would say I'm about a 4. But lately, I've been at a like 2.5, a 3, because life has just been life, and it's been a lot of things on top of each other, just kind of compounding. And so when you take on like personal and business and other family members and your child and finances and everything just hitting all at once, it's just like, okay. But it didn't get so bad to where I felt like I needed to call my therapist. Because on a normal day, I'd be like, I need to release all of this, but I'm tapping into my own tools, which is great. I think that's another conversation that people should have more often. Therapy is great, but I do think sometimes we can use it as a crutch. And so I'm like, what tools, Soleil? She gave you some tools. You gave yourself some tools. Tap into the tools. And that's what I'm hearing from you. I'm sure you're an advocate for therapy. I don't want to misquote, assume that, but I know that you got tools in your bag, and I love that for you.
I mean, I like I said, I'm kind of like a body-based therapist, but I actually don't work with people long term. I
Mm-hmm.
don't do like we've been working together for 5 years. I
Yep.
do like the most that I'll work with people is 6 months
Okay.
because I'm not interested in being your crutch. I'm
Yes.
interested in helping you reclaim some of your energy, reclaim the like really focus on where you're trying to do, what are you trying to clear out of your system, what are you trying to integrate. Let's give you the tools to do it. Let's do some deep work together, give you some
Mm.
tools and then go try everything, see how everything works in your life for the next few months, and then come back and let's talk about doing something different.
That's so good. Oh, I love how you put that. Who is Devyn? Who was little Devyn when she was growing up?
Oh, little Devyn. Little Devyn was a people pleaser. I was so curious about everything. I wanted to be everyone's friends. Which I like, yeah, I love talking to people. I'd be the person like on the corner. My parents would be like, okay, we're just gonna go to the store. And they would go in the store. I would leave and go sit like next to the guy on the bench and ask him about his
Mm-hmm.
day. Like, where's Devyn?
Mm-hmm.
I was just a really, really curious kid. I always wanted to be, I'm a servant at heart, so I always wanted to be in service in some way, somewhere. Um, I'm a forever learner. Devyn was always like involved in 10 different things. Cause like, oh, but I want to learn about this and like how do you do this and what are they doing over here? Was a very rambunctious kid. I was a huge athlete. I was a tri-varsity athlete.
Mm.
I was doing the most. I had really committed to the ways that we were supposed to be really productive and prove to the world that we were good enough, especially as like a black body living. I was living in very white state
Yeah. Where were you
and was like, okay,
living at?
I have to be the exceptional black person here.
Where were you living at?
I mean, I was living in all different places, but the last few years I was home, I was in New Hampshire.
And you said you were not a military kid.
No, my dad worked for a medical company that just had him moving all
Yeah.
over the place.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's who little Devyn is. I have some notes here that before you moved to Richmond, you came from Texas.
Yes.
And
From Austin.
I'm shocked because you actually said that. I'm assuming I heard this correctly, but you said that you're thankful to be in a state that has like all these different modalities, right? You were referring to Virginia, right?
No, I was referring to Austin. Austin was where I discovered that I needed to do some deep healing work.
Mm.
I was supposed to be there for a week, and I was sitting at what they call Barton Springs, which is a natural spring that goes through that city. And I just started crying. It was 2 days, 2 or 3 days after getting there. My very dear friend is on this call who was actually, I was just talking about you right before this with a friend, this tarot reading that I had, my very first like full tarot reading that I ever had.
Mhm.
Um, and it was my introduction to things like chakras and understanding who I was and what the like universe could tell me through cards. Like it was my first introduction to magic and like our existence as
Yeah.
magic, um, and really transmuting all of that. But yeah, so sitting at that spring, I just had a breakdown and was like, oh, I can't keep running from all of this. I can't
Mm-hmm.
keep running from all of my trauma, all of my fears, all of my everything. And so I yeah, I was like, okay, well, I found a job and an apartment in 2 days
Yeah.
and threw myself into every alternative modality. I tried over 30 different things and became a practitioner in 11 of them now. I'm working on the last two. One is happening this fall. I just got into a program, and then the next one, hopefully, I will have the money to do in the spring.
Congratulations, you will. We gonna claim that for you.
Yeah.
You absolutely will. That is very impressive. You're doing the work personally and professionally and setting yourself up to help other people. And I absolutely love that for you. I tell people all the time there are so many different modalities out there. One thing for one person could, well, one thing does not work for everybody. You know, you got to try some different things. So I love that you made yourself aware. And even though I'm sure it was a difficult moment, I'm glad that you reached that moment at that spring where you like, I can't keep running from this, because so many people just keep running, child. It is so easy, yet so exhausting to just keep running because the work is hard. I was just saying that to myself this morning. I told a friend that actually on my personal live. I'm like, he's struggling through some things, but I think sometimes it's hard for us to really realize we're in our own way. And that could be a painful truth, but it's the truth for so many people. So shout out for you for to answering the call.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it sounds like I answered the call.
Which you got a call coming in now. That's funny.
um, it's like I answered all, but very honest. I feel like the call was like, you either take this or you're done. Like it was like it kind of like ripped me into it. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, we're
Yeah.
journey now. Um, yeah, and I mean, when I look back on it, yes, but like it's I can also say that I was very selfish in it. I had zero desire to help heal other people. Like that was not my goal.
Yeah.
My goal was survival. It was like I either survive or I die.
Yeah.
Those are the only options here.
Yeah.
Um, and it wasn't until 2019 that I looked up and was like, oh, other people need this.
Mm-hmm.
Other people need all the things that I've been doing for a while for
Mm-hmm.
myself. And it still took me a few years to start, honestly. Like, really, I've been doing this work. I've been teaching it for the last 4 years. And I've been working like kind of behind the scenes with my students, with some friends if they needed things. But like my business has always been low key. If you know, you know. And
Yeah.
it wasn't until really the end of last year, beginning of this year, that I was like, oh, we actually need the whole world to know that this work is possible.
Yeah.
And I've been here to help us get there.
Yes. I'm really glad that you touched on that selfish phase of healing that people can go through, because a lot of people don't want to admit it. However, we do get so, and it's actually, I think it's actually, I don't want to shun it, because I think it's a little necessary to go through that phase, depending on what type of trauma you come from. But I just pray that people don't get stuck there, you know? And that does not mean that because you go through this process and now you got to go help heal other people. That does not mean that. But it does mean for me, and what I'm trying to explain, that you have to have a level of emotional intelligence and understand that sometimes, not all the time, sometimes we do play a part, a major part in our own suffering. And so we go around and we found the solution in ourselves and we just pointing fingers at everybody else. I do think that could be a little bit dangerous, because we do have to own, even if we don't verbally participate in something, but sometimes staying in a physical place is you suffering, making yourself suffer, you know? And so I think people really, I love how you were honest about that. And you were like, child, I wasn't trying to help nobody else. I was just worried about me, which is where you needed to be in that space. But there's also community and healing too. Some of it you do need to be alone for. It's individual work that people don't need to see, they won't see. But I love how you're honoring both spaces.
Something that I didn't know until much later in my journey is that isolation is actually the very worst. You actually need community for healing.
Repeat
And
that
so I,
last part. I don't know if it froze up for everybody else, but it froze for me. You said isolation.
isolation is the worst thing that you can do for trauma. You actually need connection for healing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like sobriety. Like we think that abstinence is the opposite of addiction.
Yeah.
Um, but actually it's connection.
Yes.
And so I did most of my healing, especially towards the beginning, very isolated. Like there were people in my world, but I was mostly like doing this stuff on the DL.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people knew.
Yeah.
Um, And it wasn't until I was living alone as well, which I love living alone. I live alone right now. It's fantastic. And the first time after that process that I moved in with someone was the first time that I really had to test all the work I'd been doing for myself.
Exactly.
Like,
Yes.
oh, I thought you had healed this. You had healed this in isolation and hadn't actually put it in
Come
practice.
on.
That's an important distinction. Um,
Yes.
and that's a part of it. I think part of just the fact that we are in such an individualist culture.
Yes.
We all think we're doing such great healing work, but we don't know how to do it in community because we also just don't know how to be in
Ooh.
community. We've never been taught.
There's so much alignment in this conversation. I was talking to my 81-year-old baby boomer grandfather about this yesterday, and he agreed with me. One of my favorite things about my work, personal and professionally, I love these conversations where we bridge gaps between generations. Because there's so many things about them we don't understand because we did not walk their path in the time that they walked it, and vice versa. And so instead of blaming Gen X, Gen Z, millennials, boomers, you really just have to understand and again tap into that emotional intelligence because we know a lot that they did not know. And to deny us because of what we know, because we were born into an era where we have language, there are modalities out there that have been there, but they're talked about more openly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Don't shun us, we won't shun you. Let's have a conversation. And I literally told him, I said, I feel like, and I didn't say capitalism, but that's really what it is. I said, he used to drive the bus. And he says, Soleil, things have just changed so much. He worked in city transit for almost 40 years. And he said, I'm glad. I said, do you ever miss it? He said, I'm glad that I don't do it anymore. He said, because people have just changed so much. They used to look out for each other. They used to look out for the bus drivers. He said, you just don't know who's going to be sitting behind you in public transit anymore. And you don't know what they're going to do, what they're capable of. And it's a scary time. And I was just talking to him about like community and showing up. He was talking about how rude people are just in traffic, at the store. And I said, honestly, the way we live has made us this way. It's made us very individualistic, very much so. I need to get to where I'm going. I don't care whose shoes I got to step on to get there. And so I have a note here that you said something to me. We were on a call. You said, and I believe this very thought, we are made to thrive. We cannot do that by ourselves. And so I love that we're talking about community and how important that role is in the healing process because we've gotten so far away from it. You touched on it earlier, with the capitalistic society and how it's just work, 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 produce. And we've gotten so far away from our bodies and community that it's sad.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. I remember growing up and like we knew all of our neighbors. We knew every single person. Like I got in trouble at down the street. By the time I got home, like I'd already been reprimanded at this house. And by the time I got home, my parents knew about it. I wasn't having dessert for after dinner.
Yes.
Like it was like we looked out for each other. We really cared for each other. Earlier this year, my car broke down, so I was taking the bus everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so wonderful to like see people. I was talking to
Yes.
bus drivers. I was hanging out, but like the way that people were not even acknowledging each
Yes.
other. We're just
Yes.
like shoving past each other. I was like, what? Like, I love riding the bus because I get to be closer to people, but it felt like being on some of those buses, it felt like I was even further away from people in
Yeah.
those spaces.
Yeah.
I was so mind blown. And then like there was one day the buses were running late and one of the bus drivers that like was on my route wasn't working. It was Mother's Day. And she was driving past and was like, do you just want to ride home, honey? And so she just like in her own personal car gave me a ride
That was
home.
really,
We had a fantastic conversation. I learned a lot about her mom. She showed me where they used to live. It was just
yeah.
like such like basic kindness
Yes. Yes.
opens so many doors to connection.
Yes, I was just about to say that connection. That's really what people need and what we're lacking. But our way of living has really gotten us away from the very thing that we've always done, which is being community and unity and connection. And I'm loving this conversation. I have in my notes as well. You talk about joy, play, and peace. But I do want to touch on something we haven't touched on, which is the conversation we had when we met. I think I had asked you, we were talking about my alopecia. And I was like, well, do you have alopecia? Because your hair was covered as it is now. And so is there a reason why you cover your hair with the alopecia? Or your head, I should
So
say?
yeah, so I got alopecia when I was 9. And it started like, as a little quarter size thing at the back of my head, and it turned into like within 3 months, I only had like a little small patch
Mm,
left on the side. And for the first few years, I wore like bandanas and baseball caps. But again, I was also an athlete, and it got very annoying and exhausting to like wash them every day and do a whole thing. So I think I was like in a basketball game and it kept falling off. And we were like, it was like point to point. And I was, I don't have time to keep worrying about
Yeah.
this. And I just like threw it to the side and kept playing. I was like, I need to stop being, um, yeah. So I used to wear them all the time. I used to always have my head covered, but then it was like a lot of shame. I didn't have hair. I didn't want to see people to see that. Now it's more of a spiritual thing. My ancestors asked me to cover my head a few years ago, and it took me a while to finally be like, oh, I see what you're saying. Let me protect my energy because everything out here is wild. It's just like it's too much. People are just have no idea what they're doing with their themselves and their own energetic bodies, and I need to keep protected, especially living in Richmond. This like, this is the seat of the racial wound in this country.
Yes.
So there's a lot of energies here that I just do not want to be taking in.
Got it. That makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. So your alopecia, is that linked to your autoimmune issue, do you think?
Yeah, so I have how many autoimmune diseases? Two, three, four, five, six autoimmune diseases, seven autoimmune diseases now, which is a whole thing. And alopecia was the very first one, the very first one that showed up. And then it kind of just like tumbled into all these other things. And as a young Black female in the medical industrial complex, they didn't believe me. They didn't listen to me. They dismissed a lot of the things I was saying. A lot of the they shamed me. Like they actually ended up diagnosing me as bipolar, and not entirely because of this, but in large part because I stopped taking medications because they were giving me medications that were actually killing me. Like months later, we found out that they were actually killing me. But at the time, they were like, "You're not compliant. You're not doing what we tell you, so there must be something wrong, like mentally wrong with you." And so they diagnosed me with bipolar and put me on higher doses of medication than people I know that are actually bipolar.
Wow.
So they had really, it was a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. And I can see why it's made you lean more into integrative practices. That's a whole nother conversation. It's a lot to go through, and actually it can start to weigh on your mental health, but when you know the power of personal choice, it doesn't really go that well in the medical industry, as it is here in the States where we live. And that's just it's something that you can't talk to about. You can't talk to everyone about it because they don't understand it. And it was something that you had touched on earlier, and I was like, it was about, hold on, let me think about, when you had said about your intuition and just knowing what you know without knowing what you know, but you know what you know. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm in that space. I've been in that space since I was a kid. But the older I get, the more I learn to trust it. And it used to be scary how intuitive I was. But now I'm like, this is a gift. And I know not everybody has it. Not the way that I have it. And I'm not sure, maybe other people can develop it more. I'm not sure. But I know that when I've leaned more into it, it's guided me, and I know to trust it. And I'm in this space right now in this moment, making sure that I don't let other people dilute that, because I'm like, you don't understand, right? And so I understand what you're saying right now for sure. Mrs. Green. Hey, Mrs. Green. She says we definitely need to get back to connection. Absolutely. And this is one way that we're doing it. Even though we're in front of some screens right now, Devyn and I were able to connect in person. We shared stories, we shared energy, and now she's here. Mrs. Green shows up almost every single month on our podcast. She's not in our age group. She is older than us, but she loves these conversations. And again, it talks about, I was talking about earlier, just bridging that gap between generations and just making people aware, even if something doesn't pertain to you, just be aware. That also creates connection. So thank you, Mrs. Green. But do you have anything that you want to say in regards to what I just said?
My brain just went to Mrs. Green and the intergenerational.
I said a lot, baby. I am so known for doing that. I did say a lot.
It has me thinking about like what a gift it is to have intergenerational relationships. And one of the things that when you were talking about, I think it was your grandfather, the gentleman that you were talking about, like part of what I really think of often is part of the challenge with like the intergenerational, we do have a lot more access to information
Yeah.
than a lot of our elders did. So we know more, we have different language, all of the things. But one of the things that I find to be so loud in the disconnect between generations is the respect piece. Just because we have different information doesn't mean that we can't share some basic respect with each other, especially respect for our elders that have had so much more experience
Mm.
in this world than we do. Just because we have more knowledge doesn't mean that experience is not
Mm.
just as, if not more valuable in many
Wow.
situations.
Okay,
Um,
girl, you better talk. You just humbled me.
I just it's really really easy, and I say this as someone who, like, it took me until really earlier this year to start calling my grandmother on a regular basis, and
Mm-hmm.
now my grandmother is one of my favorite people in the world. But she has a lot of, like, I mean, she grew up in a very traumatic time. She's still holding a lot of that trauma in her life.
Mm-hmm.
And you see it in her house, you see it in her relationships with her family, with her kids. And I think it's a little easier because I am a generation away from her to have a much closer relationship than my mom does with
Yeah.
her.
Yeah.
But for the longest time, like, I remember being around a dinner table after, like, getting off the phone with my grandma, and me and my sister just talking shit. I don't know if I can swear on this, but,
Yeah.
like, just not saying. And it was like about my grandma, and it was like, this is your grandmother. Like, I was literally in her womb. Like, I came from her. And, like, the complete lack of respect that I had as a child. And I can even say until really last year, until this year, starting to build this different kind of relationship with her is just unacceptable.
Yeah.
Like, that's something that
You just,
I do.
I ain't gonna lie, you just humbled me, sis. I ain't gonna lie,
I mean,
like,
sometimes we need to do that for ourselves.
that's so good. Um, wow, thank you for sharing that as well. How are you able to tap into joy and play and peace? Because I know that what you're experiencing can at times feel isolating for you because not many people probably that you can touch and feel in Richmond or close to you are experiencing the same thing. You know
Absolutely.
the experiences you're having with the medical system and every day feeling your symptoms. I'm not sure exactly what that looks and feels like, but I think sometimes when you look at a person, you forget. I'll use my mom as an example. She has excruciating chronic back pain and has for years. She's tried so many different things. And I be talking to her about, like, energy and emotions. We still trying to travel down that path, right? But can't see people's pain. People cannot look at me and see my fatigue. I be looking all bright and big old smile and white bubbly eyes, and it's like, girl, I'm tired. Okay. So that's what I deal with my autoimmune issues. And so how are you able to access the joy and the love and the play and the peace? Because it can be difficult when you're dealing with what you're dealing with. You're dealing with multiple autoimmune issues and then fighting and advocating for yourself in the medical system. How are you able to tap into that stuff?
Such a question. So I am blessed that I come from a lineage of love.
Mm.
Um, so on both sides, my grandparents on both sides, and, like, both my grandparents were both divorced from each other. Sorry. One, my paternal grandparents are divorced. My maternal grandparents never got married. She was the mistress, and it was like
Mm.
there was a lot of drama in that generation.
Yeah.
And in that generation, there was also such deep unconditional love.
Mm.
The way they cared for and showed up for my parents, and the way that my parents looked at everything that they did that harmed them, everything that their parents did that harmed them, and got together and said, we are going to do things differently.
Mm.
We are going to prioritize making space and time for our children. We're going to celebrate our children. And they really healed some deep generational curses
Mm.
with me and my sister. And now my sister is my favorite person in the entire world. Like, literally, I say that my sister was the best gift I
Yeah.
was ever given, because when I was a kid, I had so much energy. My parents are like, we have to have another kid so that she has someone else to
Child, they keep asking me to have another one for my child. I'm like, do you see a man? Do you see a husband? Because I don't know.
play.
But then I think about it, I'm like, he needs somebody.
It's yeah, it's really great to have that kind of, like, oh, like, it's me and my sister forever.
I
Like,
love
and
that.
she's my best friend. She's my rock. She's the biggest brat in the world, but I love her to death. And like that kind of love, that kind of deep unconditional love, um, I think partly because we moved so much, it just got deeper and deeper and deeper entrenched in like how we move and how we be.
Yep.
And so now, like, love is the thing that I orient to. It is what at my core is. I believe that love is what the entire universe is and what we're all striving towards. And so I just try to be a reflection of that. And so when you move from that kind of place, you see it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
You see it in everything. You see it in, you know, like your favorite color on a, like right now, there are all these trees around the city that have these little pink buds, and I love the color pink. And so, like, everywhere I go, it's just like I am falling in love with the trees every time I see one.
Yeah.
Um, it just makes living life lighter when you can
Mm-hmm.
see joy, when you can see love in everything. It's like love can hold, no matter how dark a day is, no matter how exhausting a day is, seeing a little spark of love everywhere, it can hold it. It can hold all of the heaviness, all of the chaos, all of the fear,
Mm-hmm.
everything. But then on top of that, joy to me is like love in action.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to find the things that bring you joy, like my entire house, you can kind of see a little bit, but like I designed my
Mm-hmm.
house so that they're like very happy, exciting colors and like
Yep.
things all over the place.
Yep.
So that like my whole house is just a massive serotonin release. Because like everywhere I look, there's something that brings me joy.
Yes.
It reminds me why I love being here, love being in this body, love being able to experience the like softness of my favorite blanket, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like having those little pieces makes everything else so much easier to me.
Mm.
It makes it so much easier to be with the genocides, the damn near depression that we're in, the like I don't know how I'm gonna pay my rent next month, but we're gonna figure it out. It's like cool. I could get lost in that.
Yeah.
It's so easy to get lost in that,
Mm-hmm.
but I can get lost in it while under my favorite
I
blanket,
know
so I'm at least cozy.
I know that's right. Oh, that is so freaking good. That is
and
so good.
and then the play piece.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I saw something recently that I really love, and I need to look into if this is actually
Mm-hmm.
true. But it said that the opposite of trauma is play.
Mm. Mm.
Because, right? Because trauma, what it does is it locks us in a specific state. So like a lot of us have like childhood trauma and like I don't know, some like your boss starts yelling at you and suddenly you revert to a 4-year-old when your mom's yelling
Yep.
at you. And your 4-year-old is running the show forever. You're
Come on.
frozen in that place as a 4-year-old, right? And like suddenly you're a 52-year-old woman who's like, running around acting like a 4-year-old all the time.
Yeah.
But what that 4-year-old also has access to is play. Is like is the state of being where anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
State
Mm-hmm.
of being where you have access to your imagination, where you
Mm-hmm.
believe whatever you believe can be true, and nothing has to be right because there is no right way to play.
That's
Everyone
so
has their
good.
own. And like so in that place, like when I'm in a really challenging place, I often bring play in. It's like, oh, my body hurts really, really, really badly right now. I like feel like I can't breathe and I'm scared and I'm tired. And then I'm like, oh, what was that? And
Mm-hmm.
suddenly I'm like playing with the sounds that I could make with my body to remind myself that, oh, there are really fun things that can happen with my body. My body doesn't just have to be pain. My
Wow.
body can also make some weird, fun music. And then I can start making weird noises. And it's
Mm-hmm.
just like, then suddenly I'm laughing and there's more space in my body because I'm not holding everything scared.
Mm.
It's like, oh, that laughter is like, there's like a deep breath that happens there. And then there's like a bubbling that happens there.
Mm-hmm.
That tightness gets opened just a little. And just that little bit makes it easier for me to figure out, okay, cool. Now I'm not trapped in my lizard brain. I'm not in my fight or flight.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of my
Girl.
cognitive mind online that can say, oh, you're in a lot of pain right now, Devyn. you can get up. I know it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be painful for you to get up, but you can get up and go get a heating pack. When you get back down, you'll feel better.
Wow.
But like, just that little bit of play gave me space to bring my mind online to figure out what I could do to actually help me. Woo! And not just back in the spiral.
Girl, you are so good. That is so good. My God.
Took a long time to figure it out.
Right. Which, thank you for saying that, because yes, you gave all these great descriptors, right? But you like, it took me a while to figure that out. Yeah. That is so good. That is this is why I have this podcast. It's like, man, she has all these different autoimmune issues. She's having all these different challenges with the medical system. And you could really be an angry ass person 100% of the time if you wanted to.
And I still have those days. Like, I fully have been thinking about calling my dentist in for discrimination and going after his license because of how poorly
for sure. And if you need to do that, then do it.
Right?
Listen.
Sometimes we actually have to get that side of us.
Right. My next statement was going to be, if you that 10% of the time, that's cool. You know what I'm saying? But you really could be making a conscious choice to be like that 100% of the time. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. And everything that you just said is so, I needed to hear all of that, to be honest. And dealing with, I haven't talked about this like openly a lot, and I'm open book, but some of my friends know this, but I do have 2 autoimmune issues, and mine is something you can't see, just like yours. And so you can't see that I'm really pulling myself out of bed every single day, right? And because God gave me this big old smile and these big old eyes, like, you can't always see that, like, I'm tired as fuck right now. And I don't feel like doing none of this shit, And so I have to remind myself, I forgot what I was saying right before that, but long story short, I be tired. And so I have to remind myself, on top of these 2 autoimmune issues, trying to be a parent and a single parent and doing everything by myself, trying to build a business, working part-time jobs to keep ends met while I build this business. It's not an easy feat. And so sometimes I do get stuck in that amygdala lizard part of my brain where I'm just reacting instead of responding. And so part of me doing my work is reading and figuring out how to help me. So everything you said is right in alignment with things that I know as well, but it's a reminder, and hearing it from someone that has way more autoimmune issues than I do, right? And other challenges that you've had that I know nothing about. It's just a reminder that, damn, this is why I do this podcast. If she can have that perspective, I can tap into a little bit of that perspective as well, And I love what you said about play and it being the opposite of trauma, because there's a lot of trauma talk going on right now, and rightfully so. We finally have the language, right? But I have this beautiful little boy that I wake up to every single morning who looks just like me, and and acts like me, girl. He reminds me every single day that, like, he just want to play. He'd be like, Mom, can you play with me? And I asked him, I said, what is something that you want Mommy to do more of? And play with him. That's all he said. And so he's a constant reminder every day that, like, shit ain't got to be that serious, sis. Tap into the play. We love to do puzzles together. We love to go outside and ride and lay in the hammock together and just cuddle. And so this was a reminder for me to just play. And I don't know what I would be doing if I didn't have that boy, because you don't have a child, but you are still tapped into the play. And I love that for you. I have a physical reminder every single day at 5 years old that, girl, you need to get up and play, okay? To get out of that survival part of your brain. Like you said, it helps your I forgot the term, prefrontal cortex probably come back online and make decisions just because you tap into play. That is so simple but so powerful, and I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I needed that.
Absolutely. Thank you for this conversation. It's been such a joy.
It has been an absolute joy, because when I tell you the last couple of days, I have just been like, girl, I am just over it. And so these conversations definitely are reminders, and they ignite me and remind me that what I'm doing is what I'm supposed to be doing, regardless if it feels hard right now. Yeah. I have a comment from Smell Good Spa. She says, it does take some time to figure it out, but I love that you can see the joy and allow yourself to experience it. Beautiful. Agreed. 10 times over. That is a beautiful perspective that you have. And I love how you honor this and that. You've done that this entire conversation. I am this and I am that. You know, I choose to have this attitude, but some days I have this attitude. Some days I have been ungrateful. Some days I've been disrespectful, but now I honor. Now I hold myself accountable. Now I am healing. At first I was running from myself. Now I am helping other people. It's beautiful, sis. I love it for you.
Thank you. It's been a weirdly fun journey.
Yeah.
It might sound strange, but it's been great.
But no, you have a story. Now, I heard this is your first live. First of all, thank you for doing this with me. But I love that you felt comfortable enough to do it. I love that we met and there was time and space for it to happen. And it sounds like the folks that have joined us live are enjoying it. I am absolutely enjoying it. It's been very aligned with a lot of thoughts I've been having and conversations. And probably some stuff I didn't even know I needed, child. That whole play thing really got me all the way together. Like, regardless of how tired you are, you better get up and go play with that little boy.
Thanks.
Thank you.
And like play can also be like simple things. Like literally I make noises all the time. Sometimes me and my sister, to say goodbye to each other on the phone, we make faces at each other.
Yeah.
It's like bye, bye, bye. And like that's like it doesn't have to be a big,
Yes.
huge thing
Right.
to like bring in a little bit more
Yes.
space.
Yes. You know, I have this book by this woman. I don't know if you've ever heard of MAPS Global Events, but during the pandemic, they were doing these. You would have been perfect for it. I got to get you connected with Miss Sugar. She's in Philly. She's an amazing woman. But she brought together all of these international healers from all over the world. And for a few days, a few years consecutively, they did this like multi-day, I'm gonna say online retreat for kids and all the way up to grandparents. It was for everybody. There were like these different Zoom rooms you can go into. And so I did a room for kids and I was teaching them about the power of posing. So power posing.
Mm-hmm.
I integrated like my old modeling days back into that. So I talked to them about like, you know, different body postures and how it can give you confidence, right? You got a big interview coming up or you're going to a new school. I was talking to them about that, but they had some people in there doing some deep work. And I'm sure you would have been perfect for it, but I got to get you connected with her. But why did I bring that up? Lord, I be talking so much. Why I brought that lady up? The MAPS thing. You'd have been great for that. Oh, and they just had a bunch of healers on there with way different modalities, stuff I had never heard of before. But it was powerful. They were doing that during the pandemic to really help people through that tough time. It was amazing.
I love how many people came out of the woodworks and was like, let's actually support each other through this because this is going to be intense. I really wish that kept going. I wish that we kind of kept that momentum to like, okay, cool. How do we keep supporting each other through these moments?
And I'm gonna get you connected with her. Let me write this down. Miss Sugar. They are still doing it. I think they've just changed the capacity in which they were doing it. That joint was crazy. It was people. I was talking with people in Italy and Russia, and it was amazing. I'm gonna get you connected with her. I got 2 more comments. Your friend says, thank y'all, feeling all this medicine you are sharing with us. You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Yes. Smell Good Spot says, all the complexities of being human. Life is a test. I'm happy for you, seeing you striving to pass the test. Nice meeting you, Devyn. That's beautiful.
Such a pleasure to meet you too.
Oh my gosh, this has been wonderful. I really lost my train of thought when it was the reason I brought her up. I'm gonna watch the replay at whatever point it is. I'll text it to you. But Miss Sugar, I wrote that down. I want to get you connected with her. All of my points here. Oh, I do have another question for you. If you were talking about like running from yourself for a while and the work and the healing, right? Had you never gotten alopecia, had you never experienced any of these different medical challenges, what do you think you would be doing with your life? Would you be a liberation guide? Would you be an integrative embodiment practitioner? Who would you be?
I honestly believe that if we miss one challenge, another challenge will show up. That is the same. It's like the same energy, but just a different look. But I realized recently I would be a professional dancer. I didn't even understand that it was a possibility until like 3 years ago. I'm actually one of the best dancers I know. I could definitely have done this. I was at an Afro-punk one year. about 3 years ago. And I ended up like connecting with an artist like randomly afterwards. And so they like invited us to the after party. And it was like a very small thing, but they had an amazing DJ. So all of the dancers for the artist were there. And we like ended up dancing in the rain. And I afterwards they were like, "Do you want to come on tour with us?" And they were joking.
Wow.
They were absolutely joking. But
Yeah.
I was like, that's an option.
Mm-hmm.
Like I just like hadn't even realized that I could have been doing that my whole life. And I think that if I wasn't so scared to be in my body or ashamed to be in my body for so long,
Mm-hmm.
I would have seen what a gift I had in my body.
Mm.
And there would have been more space for me to just trust that. Because I still have problems trusting my body sometimes because my body is like, and now it's a little more like I understand that my body is winning the game it's playing. So like my body is really committed to this long COVID thing, and like we are untangling it and figuring it out, but my body is still winning that game.
Mm.
And so in that instance, I like would have had a different game to play.
Mm. So you'd have been a professional dancer. I love that.
Yeah.
This is wonderful. I think I've asked you, let me one more thing. Lastly, and I want to give you the floor if there are any other things that you wanted to address that you haven't. I want to ask you, can you give more actionable ideas as you've already done, but for anyone watching, if they are on the process similar to me where they are learning to regulate their nervous system? Because I hear a lot of talk about that, right? And it's really important. I'm kind of, I ain't gonna say embarrassed, but a little, we'll use that word. I'm embarrassed that I'm like in my 30s figuring out how to regulate my damn emotions.
I mean, like, that's not on you, though. They didn't teach, like, how on earth did we come out of the womb? They put us in school. They teach us about, like, geometry and about how the white man conquered all these things when they discovered blah, 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 but didn't say, like, hey, when you're, like, someone just taught me this one the other day. When your sinuses are completely clogged, put your tongue at the top of your mouth,
Mm-hmm.
on the roof of your mouth,
Mm-hmm.
and put one finger on your third eye.
Mm-hmm.
And it will drain your sinuses. Why
Mm-hmm.
do they teach us like basic how do you care for your body because you're stuck in this thing for the rest of your life?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how is that the last thing anyone taught us? And now we have shame because our elders, our teachers, didn't think that it was an important thing for us to learn.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, it's so deep, it's so layered. They didn't know. You know what I'm saying? And what would the world look like if this major event did not happen? That nobody wants to really talk about the effects still trickling and invading our lives every single day. You know what I'm saying? So I received that because it's definitely not my fault. But I'm happy to be learning it, so I can pass it on to my little boy so he does not have, the anger problems that mommy has had. I've come really far. I will say that I've come so far. And I'm like you, where I have a twin sister actually who has seen the good, the bad, the ugly, every single transition in my life. And she raves about just how well I'm doing. But mostly it's more internal now. So I'm trying to work on what I feel internally and managing my nervous system and managing any feelings that I just don't like to keep coming up. And so yeah, I do the box breathing, but when that fight or flight kicks in and you're in that lizard brain,
Yeah.
baby, you ain't thinking about none of that.
Okay. So I have a few of them.
Yes.
I actually have like almost 100 at this point,
Yes.
but I'm gonna give you my top ones that I use the most consistently. Okay. The first is gonna be the one that we talked about earlier, 4 fingers above the base of the sternum, like where the ribs meet. That point right there, the Sea of Tranquility. Like I said, the more you'll use this, the more your body naturally turns towards regulation.
Mm-hmm.
So this one I really, really love, and I probably use this like multiple times every week. This is a very regular one.
Mm-hmm.
And I also have little things, like I have them in my phone, like a wellness and a crisis plan. So like, what do you do when everything's, because like when your blood, when you're in your lizard brain, in your like fight or flight, freeze, fawn thing,
Yes.
there is no blood up here in your cognitive mind. So like your cognitive mind can't actually make rational decisions because it's not on. So sometimes just having like a piece of paper by the door or in your bathroom or on your phone that says these are the things you do
Mm-hmm,
helps.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Um, so on this list, on my list, I have the first three things are this sea of tranquility. The second thing, this is the one that I use when things are really dysregulated, and I like just cannot calm myself down. I like to think of this one as a nervous system hug. And it's really easy. The first, it's called a neurovascular hold. And what neurovascular holds do is that it runs along neurovascular, there are neurovascular points all over the body. And what those points are is they help stimulate blood flow. So
Mm-hmm.
this literally helps stimulate blood flowing back to the frontal cortex.
Mm-hmm.
So you put one hand on the front of your forehead. um, and there are also points for stress along the meridian lines. Meridian lines are the Chinese energy lines that run across the body. So you put one hand on the front of your forehead, and then the other hand you're going to take along your eye line to the back of your forehead. And on the back of the forehead is along the, I believe it's the kidney meridian, which is the meridian for fear.
Mm-hmm.
And you put your hand back there. Oh. And you just breathe in through the nose, nice and slow, out through the mouth, with a sigh.
Y'all, we got cut off.
Hi,
Can you see me now?
I cannot see you, but I don't know what just happened.
I don't know what happened either. I don't know if we went on too long or what, but because we were on, I've been on for an hour and a half, probably a little bit more than that. So that's probably
Yeah,
why.
I do have to go in a second. I do have another call in like 2 minutes.
Okay, let's close it out then, girl. Say what you want to say, and thank you for being
Yeah,
here.
absolutely. Yeah, I do want to just tell you the rest of this. You can hold it for like, a few breaths, or like I've literally seen this pull people out of panic attacks
Mm-hmm.
or like stop a panic attack from coming. It's so gentle and easy way to just like literally, like I said, it's a nervous system hug. I like to take naps with it when I'm really dysregulated, put my elbows on pillows and just hold myself when I sleep. Super easy way to just be with your nervous system and help it settle down.
Thank you for sharing that. You have been absolutely amazing. Thank you for being a thriver, for sharing your story and your light with us. And if there's anything you want to say, let us know, and then log off, baby, to get on your meeting on time.
Well, thank you again for having me here. It was such a pleasure. If y'all want to learn more about the work that I'm doing, you can go to devyn.love, DEVYNE.love, LOVE. And I'm a death doula. So my next like kind of big offering in the world that I'm very excited about is we are about to start doing death salons so that we can start being with all of the death that is happening, like the death of the world that we thought we understood, and knew the death of ourselves that like has to happen if we really want to step into liberation. We have to be willing to let the parts of us that aren't actually us die, the parts of us that we've been conditioned to believe that we are. The death that we're facing with all of the genocides and the epidemics, there are many of them happening right now. And like, how do we learn to be with our grief? How do we learn to be with our grief gently? How do we learn to be with our grief in community? Because that's how our ancestors have always done it. Because they've known that our emotional experiences aren't happening in isolation, aren't happening in a vacuum. We're actually all sharing this, and that's one of the most powerful ways for us to move through it, is to be with and to acknowledge and to see each other and be seen in that. So if you're interested in that, the first one is going to be on the 8th of August. And if you follow me at Devyn Traveler, DEVYNE Traveler, you can find more information about that as well there.
Yes, y'all follow her. You know that this conversation has been great and how awesome she is. So thank you again, Devyn. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm so glad we got a chance to do this.
Absolutely. I'll see you later.
Thank you.
Hi, Amy. Aw. Y'all, all of the people that have showed up today, it's such a blessing. Thank you so much for being here. I love y'all.
Thank you, lady.
I'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you so much. Y'all, this is episode 34 of Soul Seed Conversations, our mental health podcast. That was our Thriver in the Soul Seed. Oh, you don't have to stay on because I know you got to go, boo.
Oh,
Okay. That was Devyn Harris. She is let me get it right, baby, a liberation guide and integrative embodiment practitioner, and just an all around dope, great human being. So definitely go check out the last live. I just uploaded it, and this is going to be on YouTube. I'm going to find a way to join these two videos together for it to be one video on YouTube. But for right now, you can definitely go check out this first live that I posted. This is the second one because it cut off on us. So yeah, thank you for just being part of the Soul Tribe family, for listening to this. I see some people following us. Thank y'all so much. Love and peace to you as well. Smell Good Spa. Thank you, everyone, just for being engaging and for coming back month after month for this podcast. We'll see you next month for episode 35, and that will be happening August 15th. So you'll see the flyer come out about that as well. Leave some sunshine emojis down at the bottom if you made it to the last part or to the end of this podcast. Drop some encouragement, some questions. We are a community, so feel free to engage and just share whatever thoughts have come to your mind. This was a really, really great episode. Until next month, y'all. Oh, again, stay tuned. It's July 21st is our 3-year anniversary. We're going to be doing a giveaway here on Instagram, and some really important updates are coming up to celebrate our anniversary as well. Thank you, Mrs. Harris. Disco Timmy, love and peace to you as well. Thank y'all for leaving the sunshine emojis. I see you. If you're watching a replay, drop those sunshine emojis as well, so we know you made it to the end, so we know you enjoyed this. Go shop our merch, y'all. I got my resilient necklace on today because that's the energy that I'm channeling and tapping into right now. They come in rose gold, gold, and silver for any of our affirmation necklaces. This is just one of them, okay? We have some new merch on our website as well. Go get you a mental wellness manifesto poster. It is big. You see this, okay? Put it in your office, your bedroom, your bathroom, wherever you want to put it at. Make sure you sign it. Child, I need to sign this thing. Matter of fact, let me sign this thing, and I'm going to read it with y'all. Hold, please. I want to sign it in, I think, orange. Let's do orange. Okay. So it says, on this blank day, what's today's date, y'all? The 18th. On this 18th day of July 2024, I, Soliel Lindsey, vow to always mind my mind. From this day forward, my mental health and wellness is top priority in my life. Not only for me, but so that I can show up as my highest self and with a full cup. I will not dim my own light. Instead, I will shine brightly in my uniqueness. I vow to uphold healthy boundaries with myself and with others. I will contribute positively to the world by doing my inner work. As I evolve, heal, and grow, I will meet each version of myself with kindness and self-compassion. Although I am on this wellness journey, I realize that others are doing the best they can with the current tools they have. Because of this, I will take nothing personal. I move in light, love, and with emotional intelligence. I am whole, loved, seen, and valued. There is nothing that I have to do or be to make these things true. I am not alone. The Soul Tribe family supports and stands with me. I made that. Go get you one. It's on the website. So now all I have to do is sign it. Y'all can't see that. Okay, it's fine. I'm gonna just sign it. So yeah, go get your mental health, mental wellness manifesto poster on our website, and so much more. We got merch for you, your kids, your mama, your granddaddy, your grandma, all sisters, cousins, your enemies, your foes, the people who don't want to go to therapy. For you that's doing the work, that's going to therapy, go get you some merch. SoulRiseEssentials.com, mental health merchandise for resilient humans on the grow. Thank y'all for being on this podcast episode today, and we will talk to you very soon. Peace. Remember to shine your light and mind your mind. Bye, y'all.